I'm calling from the Trib. I'd like to confirm a quote.
Get anywhere around 2 hours. I'm coming up on deadline.
How much money was involved? Was it over $1,000? Was it over $10,000?
Gone. It just disappeared.
What disappeared?
My copy. It just dropped right out of this terminal. What causes that?
Static electricity. Probably Heidi wearing pantyhose today.
Is it an invasion of her civil liberties to ask her not to walk like that?
It's an invasion of my civil liberties.
You turtleneck, Rossi?
Oh, I've had this a long time.
Rossi's got a big job interview today.
Well, at the Times?
Remember that piece I wrote for that airline magazine?
Yeah. About when the New York World went broke and the press gang rioted?
Right. The end of the world. A guy named Alex Brubaker, who's the head of a TV production company, read it. He thinks it can be a movie of the week.
You gonna buy it from you?
I'm not that interested in just selling it. I want to write the script.
You ever written a script?
I figure writing's writing.
Well, I guess that's true. There's no reason why a guy who writes soup can labels can't write your stuff.
Aren't you gonna be late for school? School? She's doing that series on alternative education.
Which school is it today?
Hopkins. You should see the place I went yesterday. 6 grades, all together in the same classroom.
Why do they do that?
Well, they have lots of reasons for doing it, but I suspect it's because they can't find a bigger place.
That sweater, that looks nice on you, Ross.
Oh, thank you.
When was the last time I said that to one of my reporters?
You said it to Heidi the other day in the elevator.
You wouldn't be coming up here to do a story on us because your paper's publisher is on our board of trustees, would you?
No, Mrs. Pynchon had nothing to do with it. I'm doing a series on private education, and I just picked your school. Well, maybe she had something to do with it.
Well, we're pretty traditional here. We're into what's called the building blocks of education. But there's plenty of room for creativity, too. In fact, sometimes the results are interesting.
How?
Well, for instance, Mr. Lindsay's 5th grade class did some essays. You know, an English assignment. He took for a theme, Once Upon a Time in 1970. Most of them were born that year. One boy wrote how air transportation had changed during his lifetime. Mind you, this is a boy who thought the jumbo jets were a primitive form of transportation. Well, anyway, the kids felt they were pretty hot stuff. They all thought they were ready to be full-time authors. So Mr. Lindsay sent the essays out to some publishers. You know, to give them the experience
Of rejection. I know the feeling.
Don't we all? Well, in a month's time, they did collect 8 rejection slips and 1 offer of publication.
Oh, terrific.
They're being published in April. It's a small book, but a book. Isn't that something? Brian, would you come over here a moment, please? Brian, this is Miss Newman from the Los Angeles Tribune.
How do you do?
Hello, Fred.
Brian's an outstanding student. Good citizen. I think he can outrun anybody in the school, right?
I guess so.
I was telling Miss Newman about the class essays getting published. Would you like to tell her about yours? Brian?
I don't have an essay in the book.
But I thought it was a class project.
Mine wasn't good enough. I never handed it in.
Well, you should have. Maybe you're judging yourself too harshly. All right, Brian. Better get back to class now. He's an outstanding boy. His parents are very active in school. Huh. I'm surprised he didn't have an essay in there.
Okay. Now I'm going to erase the base, the altitude, right, and the hippopotamus here.
That's not a hippopotamus.
Oh, excuse me, the hypothesis.
The hypotenuse.
Autumn, what would I do without you? Okay. Feels like some geography. I do. Well, I appreciate your enthusiasm. Save it, Mike, or you'll starve at lunch. Okay, where are we? Huh? It was discovered by Captain Cook.
Never Neverland?
No, that was Captain Hook.
Hawaii.
Good. Now, I'm looking for the city of Honolulu. Can somebody come up here and show me where it is? Brian?
No.
Come on, Brian. Come on up and show us where it is. I know you know. I thought your father told me you were there last summer.
I don't know.
Okay. Here's the city of Honolulu. It's on the island of Oahu. Now, the other major islands are Kauai, Molokai, Maui, and Hawaii. Now, before I make you learn how to spell them all, I'm going to give you a short recess. But since you're getting out early, don't get me into trouble by making a lot of noise, okay? Go on. Quietly. You okay, Brian?
I'm okay.
Did you have an accident? Well, it's been a long time. I really think you're doing better. You want to go to the lavatory and change?
Somebody might see me.
Okay, so we'll go to the teacher's lavatory. Nobody will see you there. Come on.
Lou Grant will continue in a moment here on A&E.
More coffee, Mr. Rossi, hmm?
Oh, sure. Cat food?
It's for the studio cats. There have been cats on this lot for 50 years.
They must be vice presidents by now.
Well, they've been here before talkies. I always put out food for them downstairs before I go home at night.
Hey, did you know Bogey?
I was Mr. Bogart's personal secretary for 7 years.
Oh, wow. What was he like?
He was a very kind man. I would have stayed with him forever. But my mother got sick, and I just couldn't do all the traveling. Until the day he died. Mr. Bogart never forgot my birthday. Even without me around to remind him. Excuse me. Oh, yes, Mr. Brubaker. Yes. You can go in now, Mr. Rossi. Good luck in your project. I liked reading it.
Thanks.
I was really moved by this scene where the editor, whom everybody hates, tells his staff the world isn't going to be published anymore.
Yeah. I've been sort of toying with the idea of playing up the female union organizer. She and the publisher are fighting, but then they start to like each other.
Joe, this is essentially a piece about the people's love for a newspaper. That's the romance I want. I've found that instead of compensating for a story's weaknesses, you should go with its strengths. This is a tragedy, the loss of a newspaper, and I really felt it. It'd be a powerful movie of the week.
Well, I've never written a screenplay before, but I guess writing's writing.
Oh, there's a theory that people shouldn't adapt their own work for the screen, but I've made a career of breaking rules.
Yeah, me too.
Excuse me. Greta, I'd hoped we could hold the calls. I'll take it. Excuse me, Joe. I've been trying to reach this guy for a couple of hours.
Oh, sure.
Hello, Jackson. What have you heard? So it is a problem? Hang on for a second. I'm terribly sorry, Joe. Something's come up. Could we meet later in the week?
Sure.
Thanks. My apologies. Greta will set something up. This is going to be an exciting project. I can feel it.
wants to make an appointment for later in the week.
Good. Oh, excuse me. Oh, good morning, Mr. Danziger. No, he's on the line right now with Mr. Prager. Can we call you back? Good. Well, let's see now. How about Thursday at 11?
That's fine. It was really nice to meet you.
Thank you. Goodbye, Mr. Ross.
And take care of those cats.
This dog story kind of long.
Rosenthal said once a Cocker Spaniel starts talking, it's tough to shut him up.
Hey, Rossi. You've been gone for 4 hours.
Lou, you're going to be very impressed with me.
Why? Because you had a meeting in a movie studio?
I was only at the studio for half an hour, but while I was at Brubaker's office, he got a call. It sounded urgent from Jackson Prager.
So?
Prager. Isn't that the lawyer who defended those guys that ended up in Guatemala? The big stock fraud?
I get curious. Why would a hotshot lawyer like Jackson Prager be calling Brubaker? So I went to the county courthouse and did a little digging. Prager's handling a case for Brubaker. Some caterer in the valley who feeds movie crews has filed against him. Claims Brubaker demanded kickbacks for giving this guy the company's business.
You've had a big afternoon. Pitching a movie story to Alex Brubaker and pitching a Metro story to me.
That's what's tough about this, Lou. See, Brubaker's about to hire me to write the screenplay, but if he knew I was investigating him, he might have second thoughts. But we've got to follow up on this lawsuit. So why don't we toss it to the movie guy and let him handle it?
Kavanaugh plays footsie with the movie business. Like he's afraid they won't buy him his popcorn when he reviews their movies.
I've always been very embarrassed by this paper's coverage of the entertainment industry. It's big business in this area, and we have all of the aggressiveness and objectivity of a house organ.
Today's side is afraid to go after them because of the advertising they buy for their movies and TV. We don't have that problem, do we? So let's take it away from them.
Well, this puts me in kind of a conflict, Lou. They have an option on my story.
No conflict at all. I'm putting Billy on it.
Billy? Oh, great. But isn't she on something?
Just that dull school thing.
Now, Rossi's on that dull school thing.
Thanks.
Wear your Letterman sweater.
Yeah?
How did it go today?
Fine.
Hey, go get your trunks on. I was just going out to the pool.
I was going to do my homework.
No, later. Come on, it's hot. The water looks terrific. You go on and change. We'll do some laps.
Brian, why aren't you wearing your underpants?
I forgot them.
You had an accident, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Hey. The water's great, Brian. Why aren't you changed yet?
Les,
What is it?
I think Brian had an accident at school.
I didn't.
Oh, no. I thought we got past that.
Well, he came back from school without his underpants.
What? Where are they? Tell me the truth, Brian. Did you have an accident?
No.
Then what happened?
I left them at school. I forgot to put them on at PE.
Did you wet them again?
No, I didn't.
Brian, that's not the way it happened, is it? Now, what happened to your underpants?
Mr. Lindsay made me take them off.
Mr. Lindsay?
Yeah,
Where were you when he did this?
in the teacher's bathroom.
What were you doing there?
He took me.
What do you mean he took you?
Just you and Mr. Lindsay.
Yeah.
Brian, did he touch you?
Yeah.
Lou Grant will continue in a moment here on A&E.
No, thanks.
Mr. Robustelli. Isn't it a little early for beer?
Early. I get up at 3 a.m. My day's half over. Which paper you say you're from?
The Tribune. Mr. Robustelli.
Hank.
Hank. Is it true that you filed charges against Alex Brubaker?
Damn right.
What for?
Because Alex Brubaker, a big studio vice president with lots of stock options and an expensive Rolls Royce, is a crook who would steal his beer if it wasn't hanging on to it. Look, a couple of months ago, his company cranks up pretty good. Lots of production. That means lots of catering. So I go after it. I give him a price. Next week, they call back, say we're in business. I invest in a couple of new catering trucks. They cost me 40 grand. 20 grand apiece. There they are, just sitting there.
So 3 days before the job is supposed to start, Robustelli gets a call from Brubaker.
Do they know each other?
They had never spoken before Brubaker called. He said that he congratulated Robustelli on the deal, and he felt that he should show a little appreciation. $5,000 cash.
Kick that?
Keep that.
Why did Robustelli tell you all this?
Brubaker made the mistake of sending a messenger for the money.
Too busy to pick it up himself.
He kicked the guy in the seat of the pants and told him to deliver the message to Brubaker.
You mean he literally kicked him?
Meet Robustelli and you'll believe it. So 2 days later, the studio calls and they say they don't need catering. So he's stuck with 2 brand new expensive catering trucks and no new business.
It's not so nice.
And from what Robustelli says, he's pulling cash under the table from a lot of people who do business at the studio.
Can you confirm any of this?
I will. But first, I'm going to lunch.
Isn't 11 in the morning a little early for lunch?
My day's half over.
See you in a minute, Lou.
Pretty good story.
Yeah, pretty good entertainment section story.
They call?
Of course they called. You can't take a story like that out from under their noses.
Yeah, where it's been sitting for the past 6 months.
Oh, wait a minute. Ed Kavanaugh told me that he's been investigating this and he's going to do a piece on it.
I'll bet. By the time he gets through with it, it'll be a whimsical reflection on how society's to blame for creative artists having to become crooks to survive.
Now, that's not quite fair.
Now that you've heard what Billy's got, are you willing to kiss this story off? Because if you let Kavanaugh handle it, you'll never hear about it again.
He can't ignore this.
You're talking about a guy who let a studio press agent write his column while he was on vacation. You want him to go after it?
What am I going to tell Kavanaugh?
Tell him he can review Rossi's movie when it comes out.
So, our bank balance is down to about $1,400. I'd like to be about 1,000 over that, even this late in the month.
What hurt us?
The city inspectors made us replace some of the original plumbing. $4,000. We had to put in copper pipes to conform to the building code.
You know, when I first joined this board, I pictured myself arguing with all of you the merits of teaching conversational French to first graders. Well, when was the last time we ever talked about curriculum?
I have to bring up a very serious problem that's developed.
What's that?
One of our teachers has been accused of sexually molesting a student.
Do you mean that?
Were you aware of this?
I know nothing about it.
I'm close to the student's parents, so they called me.
Are they certain this happened?
Pretty damn certain.
Who is the teacher?
Please, don't say the name or you've marked him. Or her.
I'd like to know who it is.
But, Grace, right now, this is just an unanswered accusation.
The name will not leave this room.
Even if we're the only ones who know about it. That could destroy a teacher's reputation. I suggest Mr. McClintock investigate this thoroughly and immediately.
Oh, I promise you I will.
N-E-W-M-A-N. Newman. Billy Newman.
I'm sorry, miss. I don't have you on the list. I can't let you on the lot without a pass.
But I have an appointment with Mr. Danziger right now. Could you call his office?
I can't call. You'll have to call. There's a payphone in the restaurant across the street.
Across the street?
Come on, miss. You can't block the gate.
Morning.
I'll be right with you, Mr. Rossi.
It's okay, Rudy. She's with me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Rossi.
Why are you saying you're sorry to him?
You can go on in, Miss Newman.
Mr. Danziger.
Oh, hello, Miss Newman. Please come in.
I'm glad you could take the time to see me.
I enjoyed your series on the recording industry last month.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
What you said on the phone was very disturbing, not because I think it could possibly be true, but because someone is saying these things about Alex Brubaker.
Hank Robustelli swears that his accusations are correct. He says that Alex Brubaker tried to extort $5,000 from him.
Several years ago, this company made 4 TV pilots and didn't sell one of them. If it hadn't been for some foreign sales, we'd have been washing our own windows. Then I persuaded Alex Brubaker to join us, and he brought in some new creative people. That first season, we made 3 pilots and sold 2, and the next year we sold 2 more. Today, this company is thriving. Creatively, financially, Alex Brubaker is a genius. Now, why would he extort $5,000 from a caterer? That would be stupid. And Alex Brubaker is not stupid.
And why is he being accused?
Well, consider the source. What has this man Robustelli got to lose in going after someone like Alex?
Question. If it can be proven that any officer of this company was involved in a criminal act, fraud, whatever...
If any officer of this company, no matter how talented or how important he is to our success, if he's involved in a criminal act, he will go. I promise you that.
You had a couple of meetings with Brubaker. What's he really like?
He's as bright and literate and knowledgeable as anyone you'll ever meet in television.
What about Alistair Cook?
That doesn't match with what Billy's been giving me. According to the accusations, he's a petty thief.
But that bothers me. The man's salary is 6 figures. Why would he have to be in a nickel and dime racket?
Maybe Billy will find out for us.
Doesn't it make you a little uneasy doing business with a guy like that?
I'm not doing very much business with him. Brubaker decided to put another writer on my project. Someone with more experience.
Remarkable coincidence, Rossi. The Trib investigates the charges against this guy, and all of a sudden you no longer write for him.
Yeah, that's probably what happened, because I know he was nuts about my writing. What's that?
Red-tailed boa, named Rip.
Rip? I guess so.
Van Winkle. Sleeps all the time.
Why not a hamster?
Well, very few kids need to overcome a fear of hamsters.
I always thought if I didn't go into journalism, I'd have been a teacher.
Well, Hopkins School is a good place to teach. It's structured enough so that the kids know when recess is over, but if I want to spend the whole day on one subject, there's no one looking over my shoulder.
I have to congratulate you, by the way.
On what?
On the kids' book of essays. It's very impressive, a bunch of 5th graders getting published. I didn't get published till the 8th grade.
It just happened. I was as surprised as the kids. It's not going to be a big book, but you should read some of the essays.
Excuse me. Sorry to interrupt. Mr. Lindsay, could Mr. McClintock see you in his office for a minute, please?
I'll be right back. Look around.
Sure. Did you want to see Mr. Lindsay?
No, I just wanted to pick up my notebook. I forgot it.
You're in his class?
Yeah,
How do you like this school?
it's okay.
What about Mr. Lindsay?
Oh, he's really neat. He wears jogging shoes, tells jokes, and he really explains things so you can understand them.
You're in the 5th grade, right? So where are you going to go to college?
I don't know yet. All I know is I want to be a teacher, like Mr. Lindsay. Well, I gotta go now. Bye.
Bye.
Mr. Rossi.
Yes?
Mr. Lindsay won't be able to complete the interview today.
He won't. He said he'd just be a minute.
Well, I know, but he won't be. He'll be longer. So, if you could come back another time.
Sure.
What is it, Jeff? Is it one of the kids? What's wrong, Jeff?
Lou Grant will continue in a moment here on A&E.
Morning, Miss Pinchon.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
I was hoping to come up later to see you.
It's a bad day. I have a meeting with the Pressmen's Union. We have 4 floors. Would you like to talk about it now?
Well, Rossi's on this story out at Hopkins School. Some problem about a teacher. But nobody will talk to him.
He's being stonewalled. All he gets is no comment.
And what would you like me to do about it?
So we thought you being on the board at the school, you must know what's going on, that you could enlighten us.
Under the circumstances, my making any comment on the subject would be an egregious mistake. Your floor, gentlemen.
That's as elegant a stone wall as you'll ever run into.
Hank, hello.
Hi.
Can I talk to you for a minute?
I gotta get this truck ready.
It's about Alex Brubaker at the studio.
Whatever difference we had, it's squared away.
But you told me that Brubaker demanded a $5,000 kickback.
Look, ma'am, it's all settled.
Settled?
We made a deal. We reached an amicable agreement.
Agreement.
I don't bum rap them, and they don't bum rap me.
Are you working for them again?
You bet. That's where I'm going now.
What's the matter? Something eating you?
Robustelli retracted. He's back in business with the studio.
Sometimes the source goes bad.
Am I the only person who cares about this story? Here is a guy who is in a very powerful position, who's no better than a thief, and he's getting away with it. And you seem very relaxed about the whole thing.
Still glad you fought so hard for the story, Lou?
Oh, Lou, did you really go out on a limb for this? Then I gotta make it good.
Didn't you say there may be a lot of people involved in kickbacks with Brubaker?
Yeah, I gotta develop a new lead.
Why don't you call his secretary? Her name's Greta. I don't know if she'll talk to you, but she doesn't seem like the kind of person who would be comfortable lying.
Rossi, is that you? You could be cutting your own throat with Brubaker.
We're on to something important here, Lou. Anyway, drop the option on my story. To hell with him.
Yeah, Mr. Brubaker's office, please. Thanks. Hello, is this Greta? She did. When? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, thanks. She retired yesterday.
That was sudden.
Yeah, wasn't it?
I'm 32 years old. I'm not married. Never have been.
Me either.
I'd like to sometime, though. I love kids so much.
Yeah, I could see that.
I do touch my students a lot, I guess. I mean, I hug them, I pat them on the back, I tickle them. But I'm not a child molester.
A child molester? You mean molesting your own students?
That's what I've been accused of.
You want to talk about it?
Yes. I'm not from around here. I don't have any old friends, and I sure can't talk to any of the teachers at school.
What happened?
There's a kid in my class who does everything right. He comes from a family which has accomplished a lot. Achievers. Kind of people who think that average is a polite way of saying failure.
Who's the kid, Jeff?
I don't want to say his name, but his parents' expectations of him are incredible. Do you remember the book?
Yeah.
He didn't turn in an essay because he didn't think his was good enough. So it's not in it. It's no big deal. But listening to his father, you'd think that the boy's future was doomed.
So how did this happen?
Well, this boy has accidents once in a while. He wets himself. It's not an unheard of reaction to that kind of pressure. And that day it happened again. So I sensed it, dismissed the class, and took him into the men's restroom. I even found a brown bag so he could carry his shorts home. And then he got dressed, and he headed out to play soccer.
That's it?
Mm-hmm. You believe me?
I don't have any reason not to.
You know, when most people ask me what I do, and I say I teach, they ask me what grade. And when I tell them it's the 5th grade, they look at me kind of funny, like it's suspect for a man to be teaching little kids.
But the people that you work with, they don't feel that way. They know you better.
The board of directors doesn't. And they want me out now.
Lindsay obviously didn't want to mention the kid's name, and if I started pushing, I'd have lost Lindsay. Man's under a lot of pressure.
So you got no way to check it out?
Right.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I saw Lindsay taking a boy into the faculty bathroom. A kid that McClintock introduced me to earlier.
Really? Do you remember his name?
I've got it in my notes.
Well, get him.
Wait a minute. I'm not sure I should say. Am I compromising the kid?
I'd say Lindsay's pretty compromised right now.
Billy, Rossi just wants to talk to his parents, and they're always free to say no.
Hey, look, before we get into this, I want to make one thing clear. Brian's name never gets mentioned, or this whole thing is off right now.
Understood.
Is it really a newsworthy item, Mr. Rossi? A 10-year-old boy has just undergone a very traumatic experience. We'd like not to dwell on it.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to dwell on it a little because of what your son said. Mr. Lindsay's facing a serious accusation.
Mr. Rossi, I'm not the sort of man who's out for someone's head because he's sick. But you cannot accept a man like that as a teacher of young kids. Who knows how long my son is going to suffer from this one incident?
Mr. Lindsay denies everything you're saying.
I imagine he would.
Brian did have these wedding accidents before, right?
In the past, he doesn't do that anymore.
My son is not a liar, Mr. Rossi. He's a good boy.
Mr. Lindsay says that he merely helped Brian get changed. That he got him a bag for his underwear and sent him out to recess.
Look, Lindsay should consider himself damn lucky that we aren't going to prosecute.
Well, that occurred to me, Mr. Furness. Why aren't you going to prosecute?
We don't want to add to Brian's pain. We don't want all that publicity falling on our son. We're willing to drop it, but they've got to get rid of that man.
What if he didn't do anything?
You should see what it's done to Brian since it happened.
Funny the things you collect over the years.
Can we talk?
Oh, yes, he's off a lot.
I was just wondering why you retired so suddenly.
I don't want to be part of it.
Part of what?
People were coming in the office with envelopes. Sometimes men would call in and ask me to give them extra days until they had to pay up. He put me in a terrible spot.
You know what I can't understand is, with all of Brubaker's money, how could he steal? I mean, what makes him do it?
Oh, I've seen that before. People who make an enormous amount of money and still seem to live close to the edge. That seems to be Mr. Brubaker's problem. It's never enough.
Well, he's certainly done himself in now.
Oh, it's a funny business. Someone like Mr. Brubaker makes a success. Well, the people in charge think it's because he knows something, because he has some kind of magic. A studio can become awfully dependent.
Can you tell me some of the names of people that Brubaker exploited?
Mr. Brubaker found a cat asleep on the hood of his car. Well, they like the warmth, you know. He got furious, so he called the exterminators. And they're going to come and trap all the studio cats and put them to sleep. What kind of a person hates cats so much he'd have them killed?
I don't know how many more times I can clean it. I got it.
Yeah?
I got it.
Yeah, what?
The list.
We can finish this.
The list of people involved in kickbacks with Brubaker.
Oh, yeah, let me see.
There's film labs, producers, equipment rental companies. There's even a couple of writers.
What writers?
Sorry, Rossi, you're not on the list.
There's more than $5,000 involved. It's closer to $100,000.
Well, let's check this out.
I'm going to before I visit Danziger.
Danziger?
It's the other VP I met at the studio. He said that he wouldn't hesitate to go after Brubaker if I could prove anything illegal.
You gonna meet with him?
Yeah, I want to deliver this list personally.
You sure you can get past the studio gate?
If I have any trouble, I will just mention your name.
I didn't want to do this in my office. Anyhow, I like this part of the lot. It's very nostalgic.
Brings back great movies. Shane, High Noon.
That's right. One man against the bad guys. Big shootout in the last reel. I like those pictures.
Speaking of shootouts, I have some ammunition for you.
This is unbelievable.
Surprised?
Matt Wick office supplies? This guy rents a few typewriters to the company. Maybe he does $500 a month. What could Brubaker take from him? 50 maybe? Here's the lab. Equipment rentals.
Even I've heard of some of the names on the bottom.
Writers. Producers.
What happens now?
I'm going to confront Brubaker with every one of these names. If there's substance to these charges, it's appalling.
If you find out that this is all true, it won't be easy for you, will it, Mr. Danziger?
I'll know what I have to do, that's all.
Lou Grant will continue in a moment here on A&E.
So, it is the child's word against the teacher's. Is that it, Mr. McClintock?
Well, that's plenty. I know the child and I know the parents.
And you know the child well enough to be certain he is telling the absolute truth?
A 10-year-old doesn't know enough to make up a story like that.
I'm not so sure about that.
Word seems to be getting around. Is that right, Mr. McClintock?
A few parents have called. I am trying to keep a lid on this thing.
We can't afford to let this get out, Margaret. A private school is very vulnerable.
We can't afford to lose a valuable teacher either.
I move that we dismiss Lindsay, but make no record of the specific accusation. Then he's not really hurt by all this.
Second?
That seems like a good compromise.
Now, just one moment. That is an awful idea. If these charges are true, we're sending a child molester out to strike again, and if the charges are false, we are damaging an innocent man and depriving ourselves of a fine teacher.
Well, what do you suggest, Margaret? That we bring this all out in the open and have a trial? Maybe lose half of our enrollment?
Call the question.
All those in favor of Mr. Caldwell's motion signify by raising your hand.
Hi, Joe. Hi, I'm Jeff Lindsay.
Lou Grant.
What happened?
The board voted last night. I'm out.
Can you appeal it somehow?
To whom? Hopkins is a private school.
You know what you're going to do now?
Not yet. I've got to find something soon. I mean, I've taught for 9 years, but I haven't been able to save very much. And I don't know where I could get a teaching job right now.
Why?
Well, when you leave one school without a recommendation, the places you apply to tend to wander.
Jeff, there's a lot of things you can do. You don't have to teach.
Yes, I do. It's what I've wanted to do all my life. And that's what I'm going to do, somehow.
Can't you fight it? Get a good lawyer? You know, if we run a story like yours, you'd be surprised how much support it can generate.
Jeff's getting some support now, but that's part of the problem.
I don't follow.
Well, you see, Mr. Grant, this kind of news travels very fast. The two most powerful gay activist groups in the state have offered to back me.
Oh, it's a start.
No. You see, I appreciate their support, but I'm not gay. And their backing would imply that I am. A lot of schools would discriminate against me for that.
You've got another ally. Our publisher. She thinks you got a bad deal.
Great.
She's willing to go on record as saying that the board panicked.
What do you say, Jeff? You want to go after them?
What if I went through a big legal battle and lost? When it's my word against the kids, it's a strong possibility. Then, branded forever. Yeah. I think I have to walk away from this fight. Thanks anyway.
Okay, right, thanks. Charlie, guess what? Press conference today at the studio, high noon.
Think it has anything to do with Alex Brubaker?
I think they're going to string him up.
Go get him.
Kavanaugh, what are you doing here?
I get invited to all the studio events.
How nice.
This is my beat. When you're off doing other things, this will still be my beat. Did you know there's a free lunch?
Who said anything about lunch?
Maybe you weren't invited to that.
I guess not. Buffet lunch at an execution?
Who's that?
Frost Danziger.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. We felt the significance of our announcement today would be of interest to the press, particularly here in Los Angeles. 2 years ago, a man came to us, a man who would be instrumental in our company's success. Alex Brubaker's reputation in the film community was always high. A man of artistic integrity, as well as superior business acumen. It is with deep regret that I report the resignation of Mr. Brubaker from our company as of today.
Resignation?
It's like Henry VIII saying Anne Boleyn resigned as queen.
We're sorry to say that after 2 enormously successful years, Alex Brubaker is leaving us and going into independent production. However, his new company, we're pleased to report, will be closely allied with our own studio in several major projects. So while he's leaving, he's not going very far, which pleases us because of our fondness for him as a person and our admiration for him as a creative force in the entertainment field. Alex? Alex, maybe you'd like to say a few words.
They don't want to hear me talk. They'd rather relax and have a few drinks. All I have to say is that the last couple of years have been terrific, working with this company and its fine leadership. And I look forward in the future to continued association.
Mr. Danziger, one question.
I know you're all hungry, so why don't you go over to stage 6? I think they're waiting for you now.
Mr. Danziger, I'm not going to leave until you answer my question.
Yes, Miss Newman.
Mr. Danziger, I thought that you were going to confront Alex Brubaker with the evidence that I brought you and act on it.
Miss Newman, I don't run this company. I answer to a lot of associates and stockholders. Now, when a man has been as productive in this company as Mr. Brubaker has been, I think it would be very irresponsible if I were to ignore the positive aspects of what he's done here.
Even if the man's a thief.
We've talked to everybody on your list. I think you're going to have a hard time proving that. Thank God we still live in a country where a man is innocent until proven guilty.
So, are you bitter?
I wonder how many people love doing what they do as much as I love what I do. Yeah, I'm bitter. I'm a teacher, not a saint. All right! Good game, you guys. Come here. Hey, come here. I want you to sit down for a second. Something I'd like to tell you. Hey, Bobby, you gonna listen to me or you gonna give Maggie a hard time? Huh? Okay. You all right, Mike? Did you hurt your elbow?
Yeah, it's fine. But I sure am clumsy.
Well, don't worry about it. When I was a kid, I used to trip on the chalk mark. Listen, I didn't want to tell you this till the end of the week. But it's close enough. I'm leaving Hopkins School. Starting Monday, you're going to have a new teacher. Now, she's very nice. I hear she's very good. Her name is Andrea Dreyer, okay? Now, this is her first teaching job. But that doesn't mean I want you to be any easier on Miss Dreyer than you have been on me.
Why are you leaving?
I have to go back east. See, everything changes. That really is life. Nothing lasts forever. Things start and they go on for a while and they end. Whether it's a soccer game or a day or me being your teacher, I think you understand that. What's really important to remember is that even though you know that everything will end, you still make the most of it while it's happening. I've had a good time teaching you turkeys. I'm going to remember all of you.
Mrs. Pinchot.
I'm so furious with that school board. And the way they handled the Lindsay situation, I'm submitting my resignation to the board.
Do yourself a favor and don't mail it.
I don't approve of what they did.
But if you're not there, who's going to fight them?
Oh, you're right. Oh, I should have known better than to tell you I was running away from a fight. you know what I could use right now?
A drink. Well, I was just on my way over to McKenna's. Will you join me?
Mr. Grant, I haven't been to McKenna's since the night Mr. Truman beat Mr. Dewey.
Really?
That evening started as a reporter's celebration and ended as a brawl.
Yeah. Well, I guess you don't want to go.
What are you talking about? I'd love to.
Its structure is mind-boggling, but who created it? Explore the history of Stonehenge tonight on an all-new Ancient Mysteries. Now, they are unthinkable crimes against women and children, but one cop's tough enough to put an end to them on Police Story, next on A&E.